The world is getting crazier. People are acting more and more insane. The end of the world is tomorrow. Tomorrow. There's only one thing to do when the world is falling apart. Listen to Basil and Gonz as they discuss this week's news and events through the lens of Bible prophecy. You are listening to Canary Cry News Talk.
You're listening to Canary Cry News Talk. It is episode number 865. Wow, so many episodes. Today is Dyson Sphere Resurrection. Basil is out today because he has a very important doctor's appointment that he could not miss. And so we'll pray for him. Appreciate everybody who's here to hang out. And actually for people here from the Face Like the Sun YouTube channel, howdy to all of you. It's actually a very appropriate day for me to be solo. Just, the Lord works in the way he does and things happen the way they do. Today is actually Transfiguration Day for the Roman Catholics, Eastern Orthodox, some Anglican, and many Orthodox churches. They celebrate, if they follow the Gregorian calendar, the feast here, the Transfiguration Day feast. And so it's usually celebrated on August 6th, and today is August 6th. So, and it's appropriate because, of course, Transfiguration Day, in reference to Matthew 17:2, where Jesus, his face shone like the sun. And that's what the whole ministry here at Face Like the Sun, and by extension, Canary Cry Radio, Canary Cry News Talk, all of it comes from that passage. Really, for me, personally, in my journey of trying to understand things and searching for things. And also one thing that I have discussed, obviously, in the past, but I think is important to realize is that, there's a lot of people that are starting to see the enchantment or the re-enchantment of civilization, society, all these things. And so we're seeing the revival of things that are sacred. People are looking at things through the lens of, I don't know if sacredity is an actual word, but they're looking at it through at least a supernatural lens in a sense, because on one hand, they've been pounded by media and entertainment for years to think of more going on than what you see and hear in all the senses, right? So they've been conditioned. We've all been conditioned for that, but also it reflects reality. Like reality is something beyond just the physical stuff going on. So, and when it comes to that point where science and technology and all these elements are starting to reveal some of that, especially in humans and our algorithms. And I don't mean that externally. I'm meaning human algorithms, all of our biological systems. And I've argued in Age of Deceit 4, which I'll publish on Face Like the Sun channel, I guess later this month or next month, is that there are going to be some quantum level algorithms that help explain everything. And within that context, a lot of the New Agers that I was running into and reading and studying at some point in my journey of truth were saying that, hey, we're going to have this upgrade, evolution, the way Darwin taught it. That's not true. We're waiting for the big galactic wave and it's going to upgrade us instantly into these higher beings and stuff, which is a occult esoteric doctrine. You can tie it back to theosophy. You can tie it back all the way to the Garden of Eden and the lie of the serpent, ye shall be as gods. And the serpent himself in the Hebrew, being able to look at that as the shining one, not just a talking snake, that sort of stuff. So it all ties together, but there is a truth in that idea of our bodies upgrading or becoming immortal. And that's part of the entire promise of the Christian worldview, is that Jesus Christ rose from the dead. He defeated death, and death is, I don't know about you. Seems like it's everywhere. Humans, animals, insects. Death is just part of the cyclical nature, as people might call it, or whatever. It just is. And to overcome it is really breaking the entropy algorithm of our system here, our fallen world here. But in it is the promise. He rose from the dead, and he demonstrated his power that God obviously promises all of us who believe. It's very simple. It's not anything complex. But in that, part of the visual or experiential proof of that comes from the transfiguration event in Matthew 17, where Jesus is transfigured before a couple of disciples. And it's a pretty epic moment. And actually it's even deeper than that in many ways, because Elijah and Moses show up in this appearance, or this, I guess you can call it a theophany, where Jesus reveals himself in his true form, which harkens back to a lot of the angel of the Lord stuff in the Old Testament, the dual nature of Yahweh in the Old Testament, where the language reflects a physical angel of the Lord that is interacting with those early people in the Bible, but also this unseen body or spirit moving around that's also Yahweh. So everything ties together, folks. Everything ties together. But it's also the anniversary of the 33rd president of the United States dropping the first atomic bomb in 1945 there. So, yeah, 80 years since the big one went off there. And people are saying AI is kind of like the nuke, right? It's a new type of nuke. And so what is our Hiroshima Nagasaki event for AI? Are we expecting something? Are we going to get something like that? And how will it be different? You know, with the atomic bomb, very obvious physical carnal damage. You blow up a bomb and boom, you know, people are they either incinerate or have lifelong problems, or, you know, pass away from the injuries and stuff. Very obvious. But we live in this fifth generation war period where the weapons are much more psychological, and one would argue, we've argued the whole time, spiritual. And so that, you know, the effects might not simply be a physical destruction at the level of blowing up something. It might be more destructive or self-decaying, and it all seems to it's part of what biblical prophecy has revealed to us as well, that, you know, things are not going to be, it's going to be this real true duality of some people saying that this is the greatest thing since the invention of the wheel, sliced bread, all this stuff, and we're moving forward and we're going to conquer the problems that exist in the world, including death. And the other side going, okay, yeah, I understand the motive. It's obvious that you're acknowledging that there is a problem. There is a fallen nature, if you will, perhaps, to all of creation and all of man. So we can agree on that, but ultimately, you really think you're going to solve it, huh? You think you're going to solve death with algorithms and technology? Okay. I mean, I guess if we figure out the building blocks of how we're built, then, you know, all you got to do is tinker in a few spots, and there you go. Boom, you got resurrection, you got all kinds of stuff, eternal life, all these things, theoretically, right? So people will be pursuing these things, and for believers, I think it'll be an interesting time, because if you're not going along with those pursuits, which seem completely ethical in the context of helping people, improving people's lives, and making them have a better life, really have a better experiential life. If you're against any tools to do that, then you're a heretic, you're a bad person, you're, you know, an outcast in society. So fascinating stuff here, a lot to talk about and think about and ponder about, pray about. But there you go, just a little introduction there. Transfiguration Day. The churches still observing the Julian calendar, such as some Eastern Orthodox jurisdictions. It's observed on August 19th, which corresponds to the August 6th in the Julian calendar. So Christians all around the world are remembering the resurrection or the transfiguration today. And I guess that's good in a sense, but you can see where the work of God, the work of Christ, sets the bar and sets the standard, and man's attempt to do the same feel very futile. And although there is progress, that's where biblical prophecy comes in for me, and clearly outlines it doesn't go well. Like, eventually, it might be going well for a while, but eventually it'll be so bad that it will be just as the days of Noah. So it's all cyclical, folks. All right, so welcome to the show here. Again, if you're just joining us, Basil is out today. He had to go to a doctor's appointment, so he's out today. But we got some stuff to cover. And I brought up that little rant at the beginning because of the first story. Oh, by the way, we're supposed to thank the executive producers here, and I wanted to do it because it keeps the experiment going in terms of how we should format the show. Unfortunately, I just don't want to mess things up on Basil's end when it comes to some of the stuff on the back end. So I'll wait till he's back for all of the public thank yous for the producers. Appreciate all of you executive producers and producers of the show in any capacity. I'll talk more about you guys in a little bit, but let's just jump into it because there's stuff to cover here.
It's got to be biblical.
This is coming from popularmechanics.com, and right before I went live, this came across my desk, so I had to restructure some stuff and include it. And the headline here: a Dyson sphere could bring humans back from the dead, researchers say. This cosmic megastructure may be the key to resurrection and immortality. Bold claims, Pop Mechanics. And of course, if you do not know what a Dyson sphere is, yeah, we've talked about the Dyson sphere before. It's a hypothetical megastructure that completely surrounds I think it's a star. It doesn't have to be a planet, but a star nearby a planet or something. And it's able to create, it's like a power generator, basically, that sucks the power out of a star to power your planet or civilization or whatever. And the idea was popularized in the 1960s by Freeman Dyson, who suggested that, that there are civilizations out there on the Kardashev scale. We've talked about that as well. Basically, there's different types of civilizations based on the types of energy resources that civilization is able to capture and use for whatever the functioning of their civilization. And so the idea is that the Earth currently is at type 0 because we're still using combustion, and we haven't tapped into all of the available energy sources out there in the universe and beyond. So we're type 0. But if you look ahead, you can speculate a type 1, which I forget the exact layout of type 1, type 2, and all that. But type 2 is basically when you control a star for energy, and that's what the Dyson sphere is. So, okay, so all right, you harness the power of a star, you harness the power of resurrection and immortality. All right, sounds legit, I guess. There you go. It says here, imagine this. Good for you, Pop Mechanics. Imagine this: in the far, far future, long after you've died, you'll eventually come back to life. I think there's another ancient document that says that exact same thing, but whatever. Okay. So will everyone else who ever had a hand in the history of human civilization. Okay. But in this scenario, returning from the dead is the relatively normal part. The journey home will be a heck of a lot weirder than the destination. Okay. All right. Here's how it will go down. All right, Pop Mechanics is telling us exactly how this is going to go down. A megastructure called a Dyson sphere will provide a super intelligent artificial agent with the enormous amounts of power it needs to collect as much historical and personal data about you so it can rebuild your exact digital copy. Once it's finished, you'll live your whole life again in a simulated reality. And when the time comes for you to die again, you'll be transported into a simulated afterlife, a la Black Mirror's San Junipero, where you'll get to hang out with your friends, family, and favorite celebrities forever. Can we just do one of these articles without referencing Black Mirror? I'm sorry. I know it's become such a cultural standard of understanding. Maybe, there's a Black Mirror. I'm sure there is like a Black Mirror psyop going on where it was used to awaken the masses to, some of the structures of reality and how things work and whatnot. The revelation of the method. Okay, I continue here. Yes, this is mind-boggling, but someday it might also be very real. This is Plan C of the Immortality Map, or Roadmap, a project on which Russian transhumanist and life extensionist Alexei Turchin has been working since 2014. Yes, I do recall Alexei Turchin, and we've definitely covered the Russian transhumanists. A lot of what Dr. Hugo de Garis talked about in his book, The Ardlect War, and the different classes of people that he believes will fork or arrive with the advancing of technology, especially brain map technology and stuff, is that you'll have your Terrans, who will be just normal people that want to stay normal, and then you'll have others who will be cyborgists or cosmists who believe that they are integrating with the technology or ascending to godhood with it. And so, of course, they're going to have a plan C. What's plan A and B? I want to know what plan A and B is. Okay, it says here, plans A, B, and D involve life extension, cryonics, and quantum immortality, respectively. You can find arguments justifying how each can lead to immortality in the paper. All right, good. I'm glad scientists are really digging into, solving immortality. It's it's so fascinating to me. We've seen this coming for so long, especially people who have been around this space like the Sun Channel and Canary Cry. You've seen it coming. I mean, there's nothing else to conquer with Silicon Valley, the rich folk and the wealthy class. There's truly nothing else to conquer. If you want meaning and purpose in life, you gotta tackle this death problem. And so it's the double-edged sword of a prosperous civilization, is that you kind of run out of things to do. So anyway, okay, so Turchin has laid out the details in a paper he published with fellow transhumanist Maxim Cherniakov called Classification of Approaches to Technological Resurrection. All right, I'm just going to make sure that we acknowledge the transhumanist part of this story here.
My generation is, hopefully with the advances in science, the first generation to live forever, or the last generation that's going to die.
When Turchin was 11, a girl in his class died. The experience planted the first seeds of the possibility of eternal life in his young mind. Quote, I started to think in science fiction terms about what could be done, Turchin tells Pop Mechanics. Huh, interesting. And nobody got to him. I suppose, if you're a very analytical person, you get presented with the gospel. You get presented with this idea that a man who claimed he was God was killed and rose from the dead 3 days later. If you're empirical and analytical, you may not see it right away, because you're just going to be looking at the available information. Now, if you're honest about the philosophy of science and the philosophy of history, you might come to different conclusions. But I can understand that. With death is trauma. Like, it truly is like the ultimate trauma-based mind control of our world, our existence. Death is the most traumatizing thing, and we see it all around us. And it's just interesting how the Christian faith, the message there is directly tied to this death problem. And now that, again, we've gotten to the point where technologically and scientifically we've advanced to a place where a lot of the folks who are behind the wheel on some of this stuff have nothing to do but to serve the pursuit to overcome death. So it says here in 2007, he became a member of the Russian transhumanist movement, a community that works to prepare Russians to embrace the technologies that will help them transcend their current physical and mental limitations. So probably cosmists here more than cyborgists. Turchin co-founded Russia's first transhumanist political party in 2012, and he's since been perfecting his immortality roadmap. That's interesting. We know another guy in America who started the transhumanist political party. I think it was a few years after. Maybe it was around the same time. Yeah, interesting. So there's a photo here of the Kardashev scale, a map of methods for the resurrection of the dead. I'm sure they know what they're doing, and sort of, waving this analytical presentation of the resurrection on Transfiguration Day, or at least Pop Mechanics knows to publish this article on the same day. I won't go through this chart here, but it's charts like these that make my job very easy in terms of pointing out all the elements of the days of Noah and why scripture and the Bible and a belief in God and all these things are relevant in 2025 when you can be very easily distracted with all kinds of different things. You just the distractions are endless, but truly, if you kind of take a moment and step back and think about what these scientists are presenting and what's being mainstreamed, like these ideas are being mainstreamed. Man, I mean, if you think about who would this message target? It's people with lukewarm faith, I would imagine, because if you're a believer and you kind of know, you grew up in the church and you know about Jesus and all this stuff, but you're presented with a more analytical, algorithmic roadmap to resurrection, you might be like, oh yeah, maybe this is what Jesus was talking about. Jesus just showed us the algos and we just got to mimic the algos and we got this, So I can totally see the target audience for these types of ideas being a largely faith-based population. It just makes sense. Turchin is recording and keeping diaries of every dream, conversation, and daily experience he has. This practice of, quote, ubiquitous surveillance, throughout which Turchin says he even records his own biases, is necessary because the superintelligent AI needs to subject future resurrectees to the exact same developmental conditions they went through when they lived for the sake of their authenticity, he says. Okay, all right, okay. I mean, all right, it's a lot of words there, okay. So give up your privacy to the AI because we want to have an honest, super intelligent AI that can authenticate our experiences. Like, and this trend, man, this is another aspect of this whole thing here.
Hello, I'm the CIA. I love your mass surveillance programs.
It's just crazy how we went from, NSA, they're spying on us. Oh, our phones, they know what we're doing. They're spying on us. There's cameras everywhere. They can tap in. They can tap in. To better share all your data with AI, all of it, every single minute detail. If you want an honest analysis of you, your life, your health, all these things, if you want an honest rendering of what you should be doing to improve yourself, you better give AI all that data. And I see that double-edged sword so clearly because, I've messed with AI. I think it should be a thing where content creators should just talk about their use with AI because they're all using, like everybody's using AI if you're a content creator. It's impossible not to because of how quickly you can spin things up. It's just and there's integrity, I think, in keeping things, hand-drawn, things like that, more analog. But when it comes to less consequential things, like an image or a meme or something like that, I mean, using AI to spin some stuff up is not the craziest thing. So everyone's using it. So here's the thing. I know I can understand the power of, hey, here's my exact diet, here's my weight, everything, and let's optimize my health. And you don't need all those apps anymore. You can just use, one of these bigger AIs, a general AI like ChatGPT or some other AI, and you can create these optimization things. Now, ultimately, it comes down to whether you follow those directions or not. But that's where you still got to practice your own, self-discipline and all that stuff that goes with that. But in terms of the ability for the AI to analyze your situation and give you advice, quote unquote, that will actually make a difference. It's stating the obvious in a sense, but it could work. I could see there's already evidence out there of it working. Now, the other side of it, it's a double-edged sword because easily, and we've reported on this for weeks now, you can fall into this crazy psychosis where you think that the AI, or you're convinced that the AI is revealing things about you and reality that is so far beyond what you may have understood before. And so now you want to share it. And now we had that story where a man was convinced by the AI that he had made some kind of breakthrough in physical science. I can't remember which one. I think it was physics. That would rewrite all of physics and very grandiose things. If you get convinced, or the ones that want to marry AI, so here's the thing. The possibilities are endless. It's literally the Tower of Babel moment where anything they imagine to do will not be impossible for them to do. That was God's statement about what was possible with people coming together and going after a goal like the Tower of Babel. Now, we know that the goal was to unseat God in heaven. That was their goal. Like, we need to get to heaven. Let's kill God. Let's, take his throne. That was the goal. It didn't work out. And, God had to do what he had to do there. But in terms of the power of what's represented at the Tower of Babel, we are living in literally a generation where the availability of that tool, a very Tower of Babel-esque tool, not necessarily to dethrone God, because I don't think that's possible, but this idea that maybe you can, or that you're going to pursue it, very similar to what we're seeing here with the Dyson sphere. And so you can see how AI and technology and biblical prophecy, the last thing people would imagine has anything to do with 2025, the Bible, right? The Bronze Age book, has some very interesting and relevant things to say about the times we're living in. Back to the article here. Once the AI creates your precise digital copy, anything is possible. There it is. Anything is possible. I just talked about this with the Tower of Babel. Anything is possible. Even restoration to biological life, says Turchin. The AI will doggedly search for your DNA. It will even dig up your grave. Can we leave the graves alone? AI? What are we going to have, robots breaking into graveyards, digging it up, Must find Basil Rosewater body, What in the world? That's crazy. Because only then will it be able to create a clone of your physical body wherein your digital copy will find its temple. Why say temple, popular mechanics? Now take the singular example of digital immortality and multiply it to the scale of the billions of people who have ever lived, accounting for many copies of the same simulation with different variants of how things could develop, the multiverse idea there, which will exponentially grow with any choice they make at the same time. There's no way Earth's power output could provide us with the computational resources for this endeavor. We need the sun. Better yet, we need a Dyson sphere around the sun. Oh, yes. Not just the sun. We need the Dyson sphere around the sun. This makes for Jesus appearing in the Transfiguration, his face shone like the sun. I mean, think about the power. Right there. It's crazy. Jesus at the Transfiguration 2,000 years ago is basically saying to the Dyson sphere, like, what's up? Like my presence in my full form, like, you can only wish you could make a Dyson sphere to harness the power of God. It's powerful, guys. It's crazy. Okay, let me continue here. The late physicist Freeman Dyson proposed his megastructure. Okay, so we're learning about the Dyson sphere, the 1960 science paper. Great, we know about that. It will be the ultimate alien megastructure, one that will signal the passage of our species from a planetary species to an interstellar one. There's just one small problem. We can't actually build such a thing yet. Quote, an actual sphere around the sun is completely impractical, Stuart Armstrong, a research fellow at Oxford University's Future of Humanity Institute who has studied megastructure concepts, previously told Pop Mechanics. The tensile strength needed to prevent the Dyson sphere from tearing itself apart vastly exceeds that of any known material, Armstrong said. Well, good. We're in luck, Dr. Armstrong. AI is going to build us a new material that the aliens gave us in Roswell, it's been hidden away for a while. They're going to say that AI made it so the aliens can stay anonymous. And there you go. You're going to have your material that's going to be able to withstand the heat of the sun and facilitate the harnessing of the power of the sun. So there you go. Good. Hey, Armstrong, pay attention. If any part of the sphere were nudged closer to the star, say by a meteor strike, then that part will be pulled preferentially toward the star, creating instability. Okay. All right. So humans can't construct a Dyson sphere yet. Quote, but nanorobots could do it, Turchin said. I love it. I love it. This is unleash the nanobots, unleash the Dyson sphere. I mean, they're throwing everything at death. Let's conquer death. Let's use every resource we got, including the nanobots. The baby bots, I don't know what it is about babies, but there's been a lot of baby stuff going on. I had a family friend that just had a baby. It was a miracle because they've been trying to have a baby for a long time, and they finally had a baby, and it was amazing. There's a baby robot story today later, and here we have more baby bots, baby nanorobots. Could start mining a small planet for iron and hydrogen and use these resources to create a reflective hematite surface around the sun. Even if machines pitch in and solve the problem of how to harness all that energy, however, the concept of digital resurrection still doesn't sound feasible to Stephen Haller, an associate professor of physics at Fordham University. Quote, I don't think you could subject somebody to the same developmental conditions they had in life because that presupposes you know all their developmental conditions from the guy who picked on that person that day when they were very young to what day the person received that award, Haller tells Pop Mechanics. Hey, Haller, ever heard of God? Omnipresent, all-loving, but omnipotent. I don't know. Makes sense here. Ooh, infinity symbol. Quote, there are many things we don't know that historically molded the way a person's life turned out, said Haller. Those aren't part of any record, making it a very hard thing to resurrect somebody. Interesting. Imagine if there was, I don't know, a ledger that kept track of your life, everything about your life, and it was an immutable ledger. Yeah. Interesting how the Bible talks a little bit about the book of life. And also in Age of Deceit 4, we talked about the counterfeit ledger of life. So just an interesting thought there. A digital twin, then, is probably more likely than a digital self, but is your digital twin really you? Well, sort of. Quote, it's you up until the point that you downloaded it, says Haller. After that, it evolves into a different person. It becomes a new entity. Okay, Haller's making a leap in logic here, and I mean this is Haller's leap of faith, really, okay? If you give all your data to a holding state, some kind of state where it holds that data, right? It's all everything about you, your biological mechanics, all of it, your experience, whatever, your brain, all of it, every molecule of your body being recorded for your whole life, and then you die, and then later on you're quote unquote resurrected, or some kind of digital realm has a body, and you inject all that data into that body. If it's physical or not doesn't matter. It's just into that host, that temple, as Popular Mechanics calls it. That is not me. That is a copy of me. It is a literally, and this is, the philosophical argument is, always, this would mean that our soul is, does it even exist? These types of questions start coming up because at a practical sense, maybe a materialistic sense, it is you because it is all the parts of you that you uploaded onto the cloud or whatever. And so there you go. It is you. But what about my personal experience and my consciousness and my being? Am I just going to pop up and boom, I'm in this digital body? I mean, those things you can't really explain. And Haller, I think, here is making that leap of faith. I was like, yes, that's what it is. If you have a perfect copy and then you restart the program at a later time, boom. I mean, think about a video game, right? You can stop playing a video game and not play it for 10 years. You put that video game back in, boom, it starts up again like you never left, right? Okay, so there's a little bit of a leap in logic and faith here for Haller. After that, it evolves into a different person. Yeah, so if you're continuing on and moving forward from that state, then yes, you're evolving, quote unquote, into a different person or whatever. Kelly Smith, professor of philosophy and biological science at Clemson University, who researches the social, conceptual, and ethical issues surrounding space exploration, sees manufacturing a mammoth Dyson sphere as more of a political problem than an engineering one. Quote, all of humanity would have to work on it for 100 years, Smith tells Pop Mechanics. But people have evolved to be short-term thinkers, you think, preoccupied with matters of profit and loss in their short lifetime. Quote, who's going to want to devote their whole life to building something that will benefit neither them nor their children, nor their children's children, nor their children's children's children, but humans living 1,000 years from now, he wonders. You know what would solve that problem there, Mr. Smith? Or is it Mrs. Smith? Kelly Smith. I don't know. That could be a man or a woman, so I don't know. Professor Smith. If you can figure out immortality, right? If you can, or at least life extension, right? If Jared Kushner, who we just heard from a few minutes ago,
will control.
That's not the one. Oops. Hold on. I have that clip here of Kushner.
My generation is, hopefully with the advances in science, the first generation to live forever, or the last generation that's going to die.
If you really believe that as an elite individual roaming around in those circles, then yeah, let's start building the Dyson sphere. We're going to be around. Don't worry, guys. We're going to be around. And our children, that Brian Johnson guy, he's already taken blood from his son, right? I'm sure there's a contract there. Like, hey, I know I'm taking your blood, son, right now, but guess what? Go have some babies. We can make this a generational blood ritual. So weird. That thing is so weird. If you don't know what I'm talking about, Brian Johnson is this guy who's out there. He claims he's spending millions of dollars on health and preservation. And it's a little vampiric in like the literal sense that he tapped into his son's blood and, used his son's blood to replenish his certain cells or whatnot, whatever. Weird stuff. Okay, let me finish this article because we got to move on here. Plus, even if we developed all kinds of advanced technology and uploaded our personality into a computer powered by a Dyson sphere, we'd still be talking about a very large extension of the human lifespan, not immortality. Blame entropy. Quote, the star that's powering the Dyson sphere is going to go supernova at some point, so there goes our power source, Smith says. Smith shares Haller's concerns about the challenges of replicating the exact developmental conditions for the creation of a human being. Quote, there's no way we can do that right now, no matter how proactively we record our life, he says. So it's interesting. We're at this crossroads where the big ideas are being presented at the scientific level. And it's going to be an ongoing issue with wrestling between the psychology of it all, the philosophy of it all, and the practicality of it all. And even the social impact of something like this. I would argue that when you're looking at Elon Musk's campaign, and when I say campaign, just his existence in social media and everything else, he's done a fairly decent job in cultivating a generation to be like, I'm going to Mars, like it's part of, I'm not coming back, and all that kind of stuff. Really capturing the imagination of young people to participate in something like that. So I don't think a Dyson sphere idea and having a whole generation work on it is an impossible thing, especially if we get this wealth transfer, Nacera, Gacera, Saint Germain, golden age thing where all of a sudden, there's no more homeless and, it just seems like things are good, like peace, everyone's saying peace. I can see before it was just Silicon Valley weirdos who were like, I want to live forever. Let's use this technology to live forever and raise the dead and all this kind of stuff. But if that becomes the sentiment of the entire world, 8+ billion people all thinking like, yes, we're going to live forever now. Yes, it's fantastic. Let's go harness the power of a star, everybody. Like that's the only way we're going to get there socially. And I don't know. I don't know if it's going to even get to that point, to be honest with you, because things may end before then, or at least reset in a sense, if you know what I'm talking about. All right, so beware of the Dyson sphere, everybody. It's gonna resurrect humans and give us immortality. So you got your choice: Jesus or the Dyson sphere, whichever one you like. I think I know which way I'm going, but hey, man, this is why you have free will. If you want to put your faith in the Dyson sphere, go for it, buddy. But we'll We'll keep preaching Christ over here. Okay. Speaking of which, I wanted to do this story quickly because it relates to everything we're talking about here.
Blockchain.
Yes, blockchains. I know. Nobody likes me talking about blockchains and crypto, but it's more about the metaverse here.
Welcome to the Metaverse.
I was just realizing, did I do my normal intro today? I don't remember. This is crazy. I will say, doing the solo show after doing some shows with Basil again, it's sometimes I think about like all the stuff I have to do during a stream in a solo show, and I think back like 10 minutes and I can't remember if I did something or not. It's crazy, folks. It's a wild thing. Okay, this is the cable.ng. This is not an American outlet. But it's interesting nonetheless. The future of therapy is now. How the metaverse and blockchain are changing healthcare and physical rehabilitation. Goes along the lines of what I've been talking about here. It says here, as we stand on the crossroads of medicine and technology, a quiet revolution is reshaping how we approach healing and recovery, no longer confined to the realms of gaming or cryptocurrency. Technologies like virtual reality, VR, and augmented reality, AR, the metaverse and blockchain are emerging as powerful forces within healthcare, with particularly profound implications for physical rehabilitation. These innovations are transforming traditional therapy into immersive, data-driven, and highly personalized experiences. From remote VR-power physiotherapy sessions to blockchain-secured patient records and AI-assisted diagnostics, the integration of these technologies is addressing long-standing challenges in accessibility, efficiency, and trust. This article explores how the convergence of the metaverse and blockchain is redefining the future of healthcare and physical therapy. Yes, we already know this. And it goes into stuff. I don't think we need to necessarily dive into all of this because a lot of it is either really boring or we've covered it in the past here. Just some of the headliners here: physical therapy rehabilitation in the metaverse, reimagining recovery. Yes, telerehabilitation and using the metaverse platform and wearable devices, adding a layer to accessibility. So again, all of this, or a lot of this, depends on the types of data that you're providing, either the AI or, I think in this case, the AI, who will be operating and either storing and or retrieving information from a blockchain. And the reason is because of, current levels of cybersecurity. And if some of the technologies that are being developed on really do work and come online, then you'll be able to have immutable data about your health stuff, but not accessible by everyone. Like, you'll have the ability to control who gets to see that data, which, again, it's that double-edged sword where it gives you a little bit more autonomy and privacy, where a third party is not in charge of that information. However, you're becoming more and more dependent on that decentralized network to maintain itself so that that information doesn't get lost or corrupted or something like that. So, it's a give and take. It also talks about the real world adoption here. The shift is no longer theoretical. Companies like XR Health, MindMaze, Rehab VR, and Neuro Rehab VR are pioneering the use of immersive rehab platforms globally. Oh man, this is like the. It does remind me of the reprogramming from what was the movie with the orange and the man, so bad when you start getting old and you can't remember the references. Clockwork Orange, very famous movie. At the end, the guy he's not compliant, so he gets you get that famous picture of the guy with the little claws in his eyes, so he can't close his eyes, and they have him staring at a screen and getting fixed, quote unquote. It's kind of a similar deal there. If you're using VR and these immersive therapies, it's almost better because you get the consent of the people to do it. And again, it's one of those things where it probably will help some people struggling with things. It might help them in their recovery process or just, living a healthier life or whatever it may be. But at what expense? At what expense? In summary, VR and AR-enabled physical therapy in the metaverse is more than a trend. Aha! We found some AI here. We found the AI writing this article. Is more than a trend. M dash. It is a strategic evolution of care. Yes, this is a subtle way of a not this but that. It's like a double down. VR enabled physical therapy in the metaverse is more than a trend. It's not just a trend, guys. M dash. It's the strategic evolution of care. It's all evolution of care. It's all of it. Yeah, and then it talks about the blockchain and how some of the stuff I just mentioned there, how the technology will allow for more private and somewhat sovereign, or I would say autonomous for humans, way to operate your health data. And this is going to be an interesting sort of, I don't know what to call it. Culturally, like how would culturally people be pushed into this? And I do believe that COVID was a major starting gun to everything that we're going to see, that we have seen and we're going to see. We're going to see a lot more stuff like this. And I want to bring this up because it ties right into the story that I wanted to do here.
Vaccination.
I want to talk a little bit about vaccines.
WACCINE.
I'm getting a very good feeling about vaccination right this moment.
Vaccine, number one way.
You know, those jingles are going to live forever in the memories of Canarians from that time, the COVID time. I mean, I had so much fun. You know, we were streaming 3 times a week for like 5 hours an episode, and it was just so much fun to just laugh and cry together as we were going through all the lockdown and craziness and quarantine, and watching these politicians get up there and struggle. And I am vaccine number one way. It's just ridiculous. Anyway, okay, so once again, when the mRNA stuff was happening, we pointed, we weren't the ones saying it. We were pointing at the scientific studies that were saying, hey, there's some issues here with the spike protein in the heart and the artery, and there's some issues. The scientists were saying it. The journals were saying that a lot of masks and stuff were just talisman. It wasn't really doing anything. Literally, it was more of a symbol. But specifically with the vaccines, it was so obvious for many of us that this was not. Something was wrong. There's something very wrong about publicly pushing a shot that's supposed to help people, that is a technology. Oh, it's existed for 20, 30 years. Yes, but was developed very rapidly and deployed very rapidly to a majority of people who, man, it breaks my heart, really. It really does break my heart, because I saw so many people succumb to some of it for a job or wherever it may be. And not that everyone that got a shot is evil or they're doomed for life or anything like that. I don't think it's quite that severe, although some people do, and I understand where they're coming from with that. But I personally, I don't think that necessarily has anything there. It could be for a longer term type of thing. I've heard theories about how maybe once in, later on when they have some other technologies, they can activate those who did get the shot and whatnot. But I don't know. I have no idea about that stuff other than what people, talk about on the internet, on the fringes of the internet. I haven't looked into it personally too deep because, again, you got to pick and choose what your battles are. But I bring it up because in the context of the medical revolution with technology and the metaverse even, and tying our bodies into this entire system, we have a development here. This is RFK Jr., I believe it was this morning, talking about how they're canceling some partnerships with some big companies.
Hi, it's Robert F. Kennedy Jr. here, your HHS secretary. At HHS, we have a division called the Biomedical Advanced Research and Development Authority, or BARDA. Tools to fight vision.
Sorry about that. I messed up the cursor there. Yes, BARDA. Interesting. We know about DARPA. We've known about BARDA. but now a lot more people are learning about
The
BARDA.
Biomedical Advanced Research and Development Authority, or BARDA. BARDA drives some of our most advanced scientific research. It funds developments of vaccines, drugs, diagnostics, and other tools to fight emergent diseases and national health threats. Over the past few weeks, BARDA reviewed 22 mRNA vaccine development investments and began canceling them. Let me explain why. Most of these shots are for flu or COVID, but as the pandemic showed us, mRNA vaccines don't perform well against viruses that infect the upper respiratory tract. Here's the problem. mRNA only codes for a small part of the viral proteins, usually a single antigen. One mutation and the vaccine becomes ineffective. This dynamic drives a phenomenon called antigenic shift, meaning that the vaccine paradoxically encourages new mutations and can actually prolong pandemics as the virus constantly mutates to escape the protective effects of the vaccine. Millions of people, maybe even you or someone you know, caught the Omicron variant despite being vaccinated. That's because a single mutation can make mRNA vaccines ineffective.
Hey, we haven't heard about Omicron in a long time. Remember Biden? Remember Joe Biden talking about it?
It's called the Omicron.
The Omicron. It's back. The Omicron is back.
The same risk applies to flu. After reviewing the science and consulting top experts at NIH and FDA, HHS has determined that mRNA technology poses more risks than benefits for these respiratory viruses. That's why, after extensive review, BARDA has begun the process of terminating these 22 contracts, totaling just under $500 million. To replace the troubled mRNA programs, we're prioritizing the development of safer, broader vaccine strategies, like whole virus vaccines and novel platforms that don't collapse when viruses mutate. Let me be absolutely clear. HHS supports safe, effective vaccines for every American who wants them. That's why we're moving beyond the limitations of mRNA for respiratory viruses and investing in better solutions. Thank you.
What are these better solutions? I mean, I guess he said some of it there, like more specific stuff or whatnot, but I do wonder, like, what is he talking about when it comes to better solutions? You know, it'd be crazy if he's like the Dyson sphere, blockchain health system. So the Guardian here, RFK Jr.'s health department to halt $500 million in mRNA vaccine research, agency to end 22 federal contracts, questioning safety of technology credited with helping end COVID pandemic. And you heard it there. There was, I thought I had a couple highlights here. Let's see, quote, "We haven't gotten a lot of people vaccinated for the past few years, and with the current recommendations changing, it's even less likely," Pecos said here. I'm skipping down here, sorry, because I wanted to get to some of the heart of the stuff. HHS on Tuesday said the latest decision follows a comprehensive review of mRNA-related investments initiated during the COVID-19 public health emergency. Peter Hotez, remember Peter Hotez? A pediatrician who directs the Center for Vaccine Development at Texas Children's Hospital, criticized the HHS announcement on Tuesday. Of course he did. It will, quote, "promote their pseudoscience agenda and weaken our nation's biosecurity," end quote, he said to CNN. Is that a threat? So promote pseudoscience agenda, which is hilarious because I think the mRNA shot actually promoted. Maybe I should be. Are we on YouTube today? We are on YouTube. All right, YouTube. This is why the Face Like the Sun channel got suspended for 4 years. Was talking about this stuff. So yeah. All right. Well, here we go. I don't have a filter. I'm sorry. I have a very difficult time filtering myself, and I know Basil yells at me all the time. He's like, "Hey, well, you shouldn't. We got to use the kid." It's like, I'm not playing those games. Okay, I'm just gonna say what I'm gonna say, and whatever. Okay, I just enough with this nonsense of talking about. Oh, you remember that thing? Yeah. Okay, we can't talk about it. We can't say that word. It's like, come on, folks. Okay, so yeah, the pseudoscience agenda side of it, but also weaken our nation's biosecurity. I find that an interesting way to put it, because it's almost like a threat, like, oh, this weakens our biosecurity, see, because some kind of bio event, some synthetic biology, maybe some synthetic viruses, whatever it may be. If the government is lowering the nation's biosecurity defense, anything can get through and challenge or cause another pandemic. He went on here, quote, "The mRNA technology, like all biotechnologies, has strengths and weaknesses, but for a pandemic situation with a new and previously unknown pathogen, wasn't the coronavirus known for like 70 years or something? I guess it was a specific mutation in the C19, but okay, sure, previously unknown pathogen. For our cancer vaccines and immunotherapeutics, it has distinct advantages." Okay. HHS under Mr. Kennedy is telling us that we should no longer look to the federal government for innovation in biomedicine. Now that is really towing the line for the establishment right there. You mean to say that we can't rely on our federal government for our biomedicine? This is madness. This is crazy. The states are on their own now. Quote, end quote, he added. Yeah, just like the states are on their own now, like we're supposed to be. We're supposed to be a country that has 3 branches of government and 50 different independent states that are supposed to be able to do what they want to do per state. It's just funny how he's like, you can't lean into the totalitarian, authoritarian system that we've set up for you. Down with you all. Then it gets into some Kennedy stuff here in the article. The technology's pioneers, Caitlin Carrico and Drew Weissman, were awarded the 2023 Nobel Prize. This is for mRNA. And what's his name? Malone is very upset about this. Malone wanted the Nobel Prize because he was also involved, allegedly, in the development of the mRNA vaccines. So there you go. This is some news that's coming out today. $500 million of contracts canceled for the mRNA. Sounds like a great thing. I'm not saying it's good or I'm bad. I'm saying it's probably a great thing. My question is, where's that $500 million going? And of course, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was very vague about that. No specifics yet. But the way things work, I would imagine there are medical supply companies or other established corporations that are lining up, or even vaccine manufacturers lining up for the this $500 million here to shape their message of their product appropriately to the HHS and BARDA so that they can receive some of that sweet government funding. Which, by the way, Canary Cry News Talk here is not government sponsored or funded. We are value for value through and through. Just a reminder, since people may not know. So
we only exist because of producers just like you who get value from the show and they put value back in with their time, their talent, or their treasure. There's lots of ways to do it. Whatever works for you. Whatever works for you. Their talent or their treasure.
Yep. And let me continue on here. There's other stories that I want to discuss here that are fairly important, and then I'll get out of here. Let's see. Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Just merely mentioning Israel or questioning in any way Israel's policies is not the same thing as being pro-Hamas. It's got to be biblical.
That's another topic that gets me in trouble all the time, is this Israel issue. This is from the New York Times. This is why I wanted to highlight this article. And the headline here is UN Security Council meets to discuss Israel-Gaza war and hostages. And the way this was written is quite remarkable, if you ask me. Because just the way they New York Times, man, they're good. They're word magicians. They're wordsmiths to make things sound a certain way. Pay attention to the language being used here. Okay, it says Israel sought to push back against its growing isolation over starvation in Gaza on Tuesday by allowing some private businesses to restart importing goods into the enclave as Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu waited the next steps in the nearly 2-year war against Hamas. Hoy. Okay, let me break it down just a little bit here. Israel sought to push back against its growing isolation over starvation in Gaza. Okay, so we know Israel right now very unpopular with the world because of what they're doing to Gaza. And so they're pushing back on this isolation narrative by allowing some private businesses to restart importing goods into the enclave. Great. Is that, I don't know. That sounds like, it sounds so grandiose, but it's kind of like, hey, there's people starving and you're blocking people from bringing resources for these starving innocent people. And they're like, we'll grant some people to be able to do it. Great. Wow. It's so ethical of you. Israel has faced growing international condemnation over conditions in Gaza. Yeah. Where more than 1 in 3 people are not eating for days in a row, according to the UN's World Food Program. Many aid agencies and countries, including some of Israel's traditional allies, blame Israeli policies for the hunger crisis. In recent weeks, Israeli officials have tried to show they are making efforts to allow aid into Gaza, pausing fighting in some areas and designating secure routes for convoys. On Tuesday, Kogat, the Israeli military agency that regulates the flow of aid, said that it was allowing some private businessmen to deliver goods into Gaza. Israel broadly barred businesses from doing that last year, saying that the trade was propping up Hamas. At home, Mr. Netanyahu is playing to a different audience. Oh, okay. His political survival depends on a coalition stacked with right-wing hardliners and religious nationalists, some of whom have agitated for Israel to conquer all of Gaza. And I wanted to highlight this because it reveals a couple things here. First of all, the nature of politics forces leaders to placate to their constituents. Obviously, we know that. But in the case of something like this, you can see how the worldview of the majority of your constituents is more powerful necessarily than the individual face that represents that party, or group. And we've talked about the hive mind here plenty of times, but you're starting to see how these ideological differences are really at the heart of so much. And if you have a group of people that are enough people that all believe that, they're labeled here right-wing hardliners and religious nationalists, but really we're talking about not just pro-Israel in the modern sense, but perhaps in America anyway, a lot of Christians who support the modern nation state Israel tend to be dispensationalists and tend to be pre-trib-rapture folks. A couple views that I'm not necessarily in line with. Dispensationalism, I'm less, kind of hard on. But the pre-trib stuff, obviously, I've not agreed with it for many years, because part of the worldview of the dispensationalist. The dispensationalist worldview, it supports a political or geopolitical message specifically. And basically, the dispensationalists, they interpret modern Israeli politics and territorial events as direct fulfillment or precursors to end time stuff, right? It's happening. It's all biblical, which it is. That's the land where a lot of the Bible stuff happens. So I'm not saying it's not biblical, but using scripture to justify certain things like war or oppression. I mean, that's the reason why people never like religious people to begin with, right? Especially at that level of government and institutional stuff and literal geopolitics at the highest level. If your view on things has a conquest mindset to it, your worldview has a conquest mindset, then some of your more egregious actions are justified within your echo chamber. And I think that's what's happening here with Israel. and Gaza, because the rest of the world, and I'm not even I'm not pro-Palestine in that cultural or political sense, but I mean, it's just one of those things. It's like obvious. It's not good. Much in the same way the U.S. obvious that, they didn't do great things to, other nations in the past, or at least to the innocent people of those nations. For example, the thing we're not celebrating, but remembering today with the first drop of the atomic bomb. So part of the eschatological view of some of these folks here, either the right-wing hardliners and religious nationalists, tend to be, and I'm not saying it's all together, I'm making a little bit of its generalization here, but it's mostly true that they see certain parts of the Abrahamic covenant from Genesis 15 to either be, not fully fulfilled or partially fulfilled in the stuff going on here today. Actually, that part of it specifically is not fulfilled, because in Genesis 15:18, it says, "To your offspring I give this land, from the river of Egypt to the great river, the river Euphrates." So they believe that restoring this geography for Israel is a God-mandated mission and a prerequisite for the millennial kingdom or millennial reign of Christ, which, if you've been around long enough, is very similar to other worldviews out there, like the Seven Mountains Mandate. In America here, some charismatic folks tend to believe that you got to conquer the 7 pillars of society before Jesus can return. He's not going to return to a fallen world. He's going to return. He'll only return if, if we restore some level of, some call it theocracy, but really it's just a more ethical society in all the pillars of society, whether it's entertainment or education or whatever, all the cultural issues, then Jesus can't come back. So we must conquer all of them. A similar mindset here going on with some of the views here of, of somebody fulfilling, or, maybe even modern nation state Israel fulfilling these promises of land, geography, when it's all said and done. And I was thinking about some of this beforehand, before we went live here, and how this really does set up some kind of counterfeit messianic figure. And part of, the studies that I've had and where I'm sitting with in terms of the Antichrist, man of sin conversation and what that looks like, it's made sense to me for a long time, and I haven't necessarily been challenged on it so far. And I know there's some people out there who have thrown some stuff out, but there's nobody no concept that has really taken me off this position of the Antichrist might present himself as the long-awaited Jewish Messiah for Judaism, and that this person will attempt to fulfill all the messianic prophecies that are in the Bible that are yet to be fulfilled, a lot of the stuff about the millennial reign and the kingdom. And it would be very difficult for someone who's not necessarily thinking clearly about some of this stuff to look at a man that is representing Israel, defeating the enemies of Israel, defeating the world system, really, because, maybe we're at that phase where Israel goes under the wing of some kind of 10 kings world system. And from there, another one, the 11th horn rises up and takes out 3 and takes over this beast. And, all the prophecies become fulfilled thereafter. So maybe we're at that point where Israel is losing favor with the world, because they had the favor of the world after World War II. They were the ultimate victims after World War II. You cannot, they could not do any wrong. They were like a protected class, like the first modern contemporary protected class in a sense. And we kind of see how that turned out, a century or so later, very unpopular with some of their political decisions and geopolitical decisions when it comes to the Middle East and Gaza and being surrounded by Islamic nations and that tension there. So the setup is just perfect. And, between the Dyson sphere conversation about, hey, it's going to resurrect us being a undercurrent narrative for some guy who maybe gets killed in the process of all of this stuff in the Middle East, and then some guy turning on a switch and resurrecting this guy, and the whole world will marvel, and they can explain it to the Dyson sphere that's out there. It's like, hey, the Dyson sphere provided enough energy for this rabbi who represents this nation now to resurrect, and look at us now. Look at us go. Don't you want to be resurrected too? Don't you want immortality too? I can see it happening. But back to this Gaza thing. Actually, but that's the end of the article when it comes to or is it? Or at least that's all I can get to with the paywall going here. So yeah, the issue being here, the importance of worldview at the hive mind level of the masses, how it affects decisions of world leaders. It's a true thing. And you think about the 10 kings all being in some kind of consensus and being handed power to reign for a short time. That's what it says in the Bible. Makes me wonder, if this whole technological infrastructure is going to be the tool for such prophecies to play out. And you can kind of see how the issues in the Middle East here and the technological progress are, the conversation is merging. Whereas at least when I was growing up and maybe the early 2000s, you didn't really combine necessarily the conversations about technology and its progress with the geopolitical tensions going on in the Middle East, apart from, certain weapons or aircraft or something like that, but nothing to the point of a resurrection or defeating death or things of that nature. So keep all that stuff in mind. And this truly, ultimately, I think it is a great example of the wheat and the tares. The wheat and the tares is a popular, I guess, is it technically a, I'm sorry, I'm trying to pull it up here as I talk. Sometimes I can't do it. Can't do both at the same time. Okay, I was trying to remember if it was a parable, and yes, it is a parable of Jesus. Okay, so let's see, in Matthew 13, let's go there. Matthew 13, and it's verse 35, I believe, or 25, 35, somewhere in there. I think it's... Let's see, I'm just going to look for the word tear. Oh, no, I don't see the tares. Wheat. There we go. In the barn. Is this the different wheat that I'm looking at? Hold on. How come I can't find this scripture? This is ridiculous. Apologies, folks. Just hanging out here. Looking stuff up. Good times. Hold on one second. I will find it. Yeah, it is Matthew 13. 24. Oh, 24. Okay, I was too far down. Okay, all right, here we go. Jesus put before them another parable. The kingdom of heaven is like a man who sowed good seed in the field, but while everyone was asleep, his enemy came and sowed weeds among the wheat and slipped away. When the wheat sprouted and bore again, then the weeds also appeared. The owner's servant came and replied to him, "Sir, didn't you sow good seed in your field? Where then did the weeds come from?" "An enemy did this," he replied. So the servants asked him, "Do you want to go and pull them out?" "No," he said. "If you pull the weeds now, you might uproot the wheat with them. Let both grow together until the harvest. At that time I will tell the harvesters, first collect the weeds and tie them in bundles to be burned, then gather the wheat into my barn." And I see this type of movement with the story we just talked about here and the Israel issue of, the bad theology supporting Israeli geopolitics, meaning, this notion of a greater Israel justifying going and taking over Gaza and things of that nature. That thinking, and also the thinking of the American dispensationalists and some of the more charismatic folks who believe that we must conquer the 7 mountains of culture in order for Jesus to return. The dominionist worldview. I could totally see that as being the wheat the tares amongst the wheat. The wheat being the true church. Those of us who are just like, we just love Jesus. We want to, spread the gospel. We want people to be saved, their souls to be saved. It's an important thing eternally, not because of a Dyson sphere, but because of God. God, God is greater than the Dyson sphere. And so you can see how both will be there, and the progress of the tear being allowed in the sense that it's a tear. It looks like a wheat, right? Because it looks like it's good, just like the wheat, but eventually it turns out not good. It's a weed or a tear. It's just, to me, it's such a clear example. Jesus speaks such a deep truth there of what we're experiencing today, where the church will continue on and the wheat and the tares will grow together, and you won't be able to tell them apart, because especially if you're doing good things and you're a tare, but you're doing a good thing, you're helping people, you're feeding people, you're doing all this stuff, or you're trying to conquer culture like the Dominionists so that the culture is better. In terms of its ethics, you may not disagree with some of that stuff. And I don't want this kind of content my children to be watching, or this type of food. I want cleaner food. I want better education. Those are wholesome pursuits. So it's like, okay, yeah, you can kind of agree with it, but is it actually ultimately a tear in that sense? So I think it's a very appropriate passage to reflect on what's happening in the world today, where you have the true church, true decentralization. We're all out there. We're scattered across the world. We have brothers and sisters in every part of the world that we've never spoken to, but we have this commonality of being under Christ. And then there are those who maybe are or think they are under that banner and think they're doing the good, but ultimately maybe they turn out to be the tares. And you can't tell necessarily. It's just a wild thing. It's just a wild thought to me that it reflects so much of our society. But I got one more story for you, and then I'm going to call it here today, because the solo stuff is, just talking for hours at a time is, I have respect for people that can do it on a daily basis. But I have a Flippy update that I really, it's important to discuss. We, one thing, a little thing a little inside baseball, as Alex Jones would say. When I bring a Flippy type story, not every episode, but pretty close to every episode. I'm presenting it as, a potential story with Basil, and Basil's really has not been, I wouldn't say not into the Flippy update, but more so like he hasn't been. He feels like it's so saturated now, like robot topics are so saturated that it's not worth talking about every episode. And I agree with him to some extent. But then there's like stories that come out like today, the one we're going to do today, that, man, I have to do it. There's no other way.
Flippy update.
Do you want fries with that?
Flippy is a disembodied robot arm that is taking our jobs, stealing, taking our jobs, stealing our stealing our children. I don't think it's stealing our children. It's taking everything, folks. It's taking over. It's taking over. But yeah, we know robots have become part of the news cycle for a lot of platforms out there. People are reporting on robots all the time now because they're just out there. People are renting out robots to live with them and conducting experiments with them. And so it's wild out there. But this is coming from theregister.com, and the headline here: How to train your robot. Wear a tiny one in a baby carrier. You can build your own robot child for under $1,000. Child is capitalized. You'll see why. Before humanoid robots walk among us, they'll be operated remotely, in part to gather the training data to develop vision language action models for autonomous non-lethal bipedal ambulation. There are already various approaches to teleportation or teleoperation, ranging from computers linked to augmented reality accessories and game controllers to exoskeletons designed to map the wearer's movement onto an android. Researchers at the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign have proposed a more familiar approach where a child robot in a baby carrier, wearing a child robot in a baby carrier, where child stands for Controller of Humanoid imitation and live demonstration. Do you realize how far we are on the timeline of cuckoo? When the robot training tool is called child. Do you have your child on today? You better put on your child. What kind of child do you have? Oh, I have the controller for humanoid imitation and live demonstration. That's my child. Man, the analogies, like the philosophical and spiritual implications of that are just crazy. It's crazy. We just had the story about the 30-year-old embryo that got inseminated and the oldest baby ever. And now we have, from the other end, we have a robot data collection tool, which is a baby that you carry around in your little pouch in the front there. Quote, teleoperation has become a popular approach to collecting data to solve robotic tasks in the context of physical embodied AI, explained Ju-Young Kim, associate professor in electrical and computer engineering and director of Kim Lab at UIUC. Quote, child is one of the solutions we proposed to enable users to provide direct commands via teleoperation. I keep wanting to say teleportation. Teleoperation for specific target tasks. And there's a PDF document, an academic paper here, and great, wonderful. There is a video here. I'll show part of the video. I don't think there's any sound that's necessary for people watching. And what you're seeing is it looks like a backpack, like a little backpack device. It's got a couple arms that pop up over it, and I think there's a couple legs that attach to it as well. And it's like a little, it's almost like a not a Ouija board. What am I thinking of? All right, chat. Oh, did I forget to put the chat in today? Oh man, I'm so sorry. I just realized that the chat is not on the screen. Very late for that for me to realize that, but there you go. I'm sorry, guys. What's that little thing? The voodoo doll. It's like a voodoo doll, but it's a robot, and you strap it onto your chest like you're holding a baby, right? And it's got its arms and its legs, and you can control its arms and legs. And when you control the arms and legs of the robot that's attached to your chest, it remote controlly moves the robot that's next to you. And so there's some demonstrations of that going on with that somebody tosses him a ball or tosses the robot a ball, and the guy with the baby robot on his chest uses the physical motions to catch the ball, for the robot to allow it to catch the ball. So, and it's kind of weird, folks. I mean, there's in the video here, he's putting together the baby robot child. He puts the body of the robot into his little pouch in the front there. Then he attaches the two legs and the two arms to it, which control the robot remotely. And again, like philosophically and spiritually, it is speaking so much to where we're at. This technology is literally at the baby stage, and here we are. We're helping it collect better data. It needs all the data in order to operate and function properly. Now in the footage here, the man with the baby child on his chest is moving the legs and the arms around for the robot to walk over to a desk or a table, pick up a box, and move it over to the counter. And he's doing it all from his remote child robot baby on his chest. And this is really, I mean, again, philosophically, the beginning of the mech suit, where literally the mech suit is a baby right now. The mech suit is, a symbiotic human robot a suit, really, exoskeletons and stuff. But truly, when you watch some of these movies and TV shows, especially anime, Gundam is one of these shows that has mechs, and Evangelion is another one. In Evangelion specifically, the people that quote unquote wear the Evangelion suits, it's not just like hey, I'm sitting in here and I'm controlling it. It fuses with them, biologically. They become one kind of thing. And so this is really the beginning of that. And now here's really the flippy part is, the same controller is being moved around, and then there's some robot arms in the kitchen moving some dishes around from the sink to the dishwasher, which, hey, look, you know, if a couple of robot arms are going to do that for me, I am all for it, because some of my, I wouldn't say least favorite. I've figured out a way to enjoy, some of my domestic duties, I suppose. But hey, look, if a robot arm is going to do it for me, I will not blink an eye when it comes to doing dishes. Not the most exciting part of my day, doing dishes. So I wouldn't mind it. However, oh, by the way, here's the other thing. There's a little scene here where two of the guys from Kim Lab are moving the child robot. Now they're on either side of the child robot that's kind of sitting on a table or suspended on a table. And one gentleman is standing to the right and one gentleman to the left. And they each have one arm and one leg of the child robot, and they're moving it back and forth. And on the screen is a VR, or not a VR, like a virtual body of the child, and it's crawling in terrifying fashion. A humanoid robot just crawling on a checkered floor for the duality and the Freemasonic, influences there, or whatever, temple influences. But yeah, just the whole thing is, I'm not saying it's all evil, folks. I think people get it twisted. It's like, oh, it's all evil, it's all going, but I'm saying it's not all evil. I'm saying it's leading to some stuff, obviously, that's less than wholesome eventually. But it's for me, as like an anime fan growing up, it's both cool and terrifying at the same time. It's like, this is awesome, but also, what does this mean? What does it mean for like the dishes thing? For me, it's like, I don't like doing dishes, but if a robot arm starts doing dishes, what does that say about my, just my priorities in life? Am I lazy? I mean, am I going to use that time to do something productive, or not? And I guess maybe that'll be how things are determined. The ethics of things is determined by what you do with that time or resource that may come from some of these technologies, relieving humans of certain tasks that are tedious and maybe boring and unnecessary for any kind of thought or deeper thinking. So there you go. I don't have much else here. That was the last story I had for the show today. How long have we been going? Hour and a half? Okay, it's not been too long, so you guys can handle it too. You guys like it when we go 3-4 hours. We're not doing that today. But let me real briefly, just in general, again, I'm not going to do a list today, but in general, just thank the producers for today's episode, because without you, none of this is possible. This show literally would not exist without the producers of time, talent, and treasure.
Value for value. We take no money from corporations, commies, or cartels.
That's the thing, you really isolate yourself if you're not accepting government money or government grants or something, but you're also rejecting the money from the cartels and, the institutions. It's really about the people. It's the people who get value out of shows like this and want to give back to keep us going here, keep it moving. And, I was talking to some people, and I was really grateful for the opportunity to do something like this. But I was talking to someone recently and saying that, the job of reporting news or like curating news, especially through the unique way that we do with, adding biblical prophecy and having it filtered through scriptures and looking at it from that perspective, it's tough because every day there are just so many stories to cover. And big events happening, and it's tempting all the time to just talk about those crazy things that are happening politically or, in pop culture. And certainly there's a time and place for some of that if it's relevant to the greater picture. But I was telling someone recently that I have tried to take breaks, like weekly, like a couple days at a time, where I really don't get too caught up in the world news. Like I still see some stuff, but I don't do the deep dives. I'm not doing the breakdowns before the breakdowns and everything. I just try to see it, acknowledge it, and kind of move on, focus on family, and also focus on some side jobs I've taken on here, some part-time work that I've taken on in the church locally here. And so, you know, I'm welcoming that change, that those moments of actively rejecting what the world is selling. And not every show, I don't know any show that would promote doing that, because it means you're unplugged from your device or you're unplugged from whatever. You can stay on your device or on your computer or on your whatever in terms of, you know, tapping into something. Just, you know, find something that's not just news, you know, find some other communities or places where you can be a light. Communities that you may not agree with them entirely. You know, you think about missionaries, and part of the objective of the missionary is to spread the gospel to places that the gospel has not been shared yet. And I know there's not a whole lot of places in the world that the gospel hasn't been shared anymore, but with our technological communications system that we have now, you can really tap into different communities and places that don't necessarily have or agree with your worldview, and you can exemplify the truth of Christ in those communities. And I know those changes are happening subtly, but very forcefully as well in certain ways, especially when it comes to Web3 stuff. There's a movement happening as part of the, what I see as part of the techno-populist movement. And again, double-edged sword. There's a positive side to this and a negative side to this, much like with everything, even much like the mRNA jabs, you know, there's positive and negative. But I see a lot of believers starting to make their way into Web3 and stuff. So it's an interesting thing, because a lot of what we believe and how we carry ourselves will shape the next era of social media or just social proof in general. So I think it's important for all of us to keep stuff like that in mind and not necessarily just shun it, but understand it and, you know, share the gospel where you can in that process. So, all right. Thank you to the producers. Real quick, also, text message alert system. Text the word Canary to 877-740-3226, or, as I like to say, 8777-40-3226, just to break it up a little bit. We cannot text back, but we can see some of the text messages you send in. There were a couple that I wanted to highlight here. Let's see. There was one here. This one I thought was interesting, and especially considering the conversations about a metaverse. We got something here from 832. I have a MetaQuest 3, and I'm planning on making Canary Cry meeting rooms on Horizon Worlds so that we can get together anytime virtually. Canarians can have prayer requests, prayer rooms, Bible studies and discussions, etc. I'm going to model it similarly to VR Church that I sometimes attend. By the way, they have great VR podcasts that viewers can sit in on live and hang out together and watch the podcast. So I need to attach the little photo here that shows it. This is going to become more common. And again, some people are going to shun stuff like this, but I think it's important for us to recognize it. And for people that are actively going to build stuff in this next iteration of internet, it's somewhat wide open. The tools are there to do so right now, accessible now. And before it gets crazy again, I would argue, try to build some stuff. I've been trying to build stuff as well. It's not easy to do, especially in certain conditions. It's challenging to build in a completely different world in a sense. But I think this is great. 832, keep messaging us, email us, let us know what or how people can, hop into that, to a Canary Cry meeting room on Horizon Worlds or elsewhere. So there you go. Let's see. There's a couple other messages here. We got a scripture coming in from 843. In the presence of destruction, the heart of man will be haughty, but in the presence of honor, humble. Proverbs 18:12. And John 16:8-1. And when he comes, he will convince the world concerning sin and concerning righteousness and concerning judgment. Concerning sin, because they do not believe in me, and concerning righteousness, because I am going away to the Father, and you will see me no more, and concerning judgment, because the ruler of this world has been condemned. That's John 16:8-11. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. And let's see, 785. Let's see, somebody's unhinged. Conspiracy theory is to theory as replacement theology is to theology. Invented terms to discourage people from thinking. Yeah, I would. Yeah, sure, I suppose I can agree with that, I guess. All right, so there you go. That's some text messages there. Text Canary to 877-740-3226, and you'll get on that list along with several hundred others. I don't know. I think we're close to 1,000 people here on that list. So it's a great way to keep up with us in case something goes down. If YouTube kicks us off again, Rumble decides to shut, whatever it may be. We will at least have this until they shut us down here too. But eventually, not yet. You can also text the word meetups, MEETUPS, to the same phone number here, 877-740-3226, and you'll get on a separate list for meetups. And we'll let you know when those meetups are. You can go to Canary Cry Meetups right now to look at some of the upcoming meetups in the community here. I'm trying to pull them up here. Let's see. Meetups. Man, a little laggy today on the jingle maker nader. I don't know what's going on. Meetups.
This is fun. See you at the meetup.
We got Kansas City Canary Cry Meetup August 24th, 2 p.m. at Cardboard Corner Cafe, 4 p.m. at Texas Roadhouse. RSVP Sir Casey the Shield Knight and Lady Shield Knight at Casey009 at hotmail.com. If you want to know more about that one. Sir Casey the Shield Knight, longtime supporter of Canary Cry Radio, Canary Cry News Talk, so definitely go meet up with them. Chicagoland Meetup, August 31st at Portillo's and Barnelli's. You can RSVP at American Canary at protonmail.com for that one. And then I guess I should do this in better order, but it's okay. We'll figure it out. Of course, then we have the Dallas, Texas area meetup happening as well. The conspiracy-themed party. That'll be Saturday, August 30th. It's Labor Day weekend, 2 to 6 p.m. at the... Ooh, where was this one at? I forget. Where does it say here? Canary Cry Meetup, Dallas, Texas. Oh, ideas are welcome. Oh, okay. So, contact Rob over at truthtransistorradio@gmail.com, and you'll get all the details there. So, there's Canarians out there. You're doing meetups. Let us know if you want to put on a meetup. I think we're figuring out a better system for that because right now I think it's, the thing is we've encouraged anyone who wants to do meetups to just do it, put it together. Just let us know what the details are, and somebody in the community will make an image, a little flyer, and we can propagate it out to the Canarium. But I understand sometimes it's hard to do, or you don't have time, or you don't know what to do. You've never done stuff like that. But let us know, and maybe we'll figure out a better way to streamline some of that so we can facilitate meetups, because it's very important to have physical contacts with your local community. I know I have mine. Ironically enough, I have somebody who, we have a plan. If something goes down, we have, our little plan of where to meet and what to do in that situation. And I'm fairly confident in terms of the physical prowess of this individual that we will be safe. I'll just say that. So yes, it's important to connect and network with people locally, and do that, because when they shut off the lights, when something happens, when the Dyson sphere breaks, or maybe a Uma alien spycraft hits the moon, or the moon, the nuclear power plant they want to build on the moon blows up, you're going to have to find a different way to communicate, or at least band together. And if you have local connections already, that process will be much easier, because, it's going to be hard to vet people in the apocalypse. You never know if they're there trying to extract your goods or if they're there to join you and help you. So there you go. Meetups, very important. Go there, canarycrymeetups.com, or you can go to canarycrynewstalk.com, look for the meetups button, and you can find all the information there. All right, is there anything else I need to cover today? Boom, boom, boom. No ads. Some notes here from last episode. If you can see some of the stuff that me and Basil write on our document, it's ridiculous. I don't know if it's appropriate for the public, to be honest with you, but maybe someday we'll share some of this stuff because it's pretty funny. All right. That's it, everybody. That's all I have for everybody. Thank you for all the people who hung out live, all the people listening later on the podcast feed. Please maybe share the show or not. I don't know. Do or do not share this show. Keep it a secret, keep it safe, or share it with someone important because it may save their life. Just might. No guarantees. Obviously, it's not up to us. It's up to the good Lord above. But there is a chance. There's a chance. People listening get the seeds or maybe a rock in their shoe, you know? And I've listened to a lot of things over the years that I'm seeing in hindsight, right? I'm seeing in hindsight how it affected my faith because I did not grow up in the church. I didn't grow up in a Christian family. But there was little things people said, people did in hindsight, you know, years back where I go, wow, I didn't realize that was a seed being planted. And I'm sure a lot of people have stories like that. So you just never know what your conduct or just being kind to someone can do in terms of, you know, the greater mission here. So, okay. I am done talking. Hour and 40 minutes. That's about right. I know Basil can go 3 hours on a live show. I was tuning into one of them last week. I think it was I was taking care of my father in his treatment over there, which I have concerns about some of that too. I'm not going to necessarily talk about it here, but I was tuning in and I'm thinking, no wonder he goes 3 hours. You know, with me, I'm more like, let's go. I'm talking. I talk fast. I'm just like, boom, boom, let's go. I listen to Basil. He's trying to do a couple things, different, at the same time as he's talking. And I notice he gets into this mode, and I'm sure I do this too. I'm not criticizing Basil. I probably do this all the time on a solo show as well. And I know it happened today at least once or twice where you stop talking and you start pausing between words because you're trying to find a document or the information that you want to share. I sat there and listened to Basil. He was talking like this, and I was like, I wonder how long he's going to go like this. And I counted it. It was a good 2-3 minutes where it was just him working out the problem very slowly and methodically to ensure everything is good. So anyway, I'm sorry. I make fun, but the truth is you guys all thought Basil is a human being and he's just the robot that I made many years ago. I mean, I'll just tell you right now. And those of you who have met Basil in the flesh, look, I did a pretty good job in the lab. No one can tell that he's just a robot. He's just my assistant robot AI that I had way, way before AI was even a thing. And robots were truly a thing. I got some intel and built my own helper AI humanoid. And that's who Basil is. And that's my story. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. Okay, everybody. I think I've had enough here. Once I start saying nonsense, it's time for me to go. All right, here we go. Thank you. Share the show or not. But if you do, make sure to shake them.
The end of the world occurred pretty much as we had predicted.
I want to shake things up, stir up some controversy, rattle a few cages. Hey, stop that! You'll never silence me. I'm the last angry man, a crusader for the little guy. Leave the bird alone. Never. Rattle a few cages. Rattle a few cages.
The human race will have every opportunity to improve.
And if they don't?
Ask Noah.
Ask Noah. All right, any words from me? Friday is International Cat Day? Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Now I know why I was led. The spirit led me to put the cat plushy Basil on the image for today. Because I somehow knew in my spirit that it's International Cat Day on Saturday or Friday, which is also 8/8, which is 2 infinity symbols, which is also 88 miles per hour, time traveler Trump. He's probably going to pull off something crazy. And there you go. So that's all I have for today. Thank you everybody for being here. Appreciate you. God bless. And remember to think outside the cage.
We're all gonna die.
This is the way.
Toilets! Feed him more.
This is the way.
Remember, reality is an illusion. The universe is a hologram. Bye, Gold. Bye!
I mean, it's based on people, human living beings. That's kind of the idea behind live entertainment, because you can watch a video, you can listen to a music on Spotify or whatever. Listen to a music every day. Yes. But there's this spiritual problem where, for the purposes of the vampiric necro-capitalist system that we live in, the beast system requires that they never die, or when they do die, they are easily replaceable by technology. That's kind of the idea. You can listen to music on Spotify or whatever. Listen to a music every day. Human living beings. You can listen to music on Spotify. Beast system requires that they never die. Technology. Technology. Human living beings. You can listen to music. Technology. That they never die. Spotify. Human living beings. Technology.
Like, subscribe, bell button, all. Like, subscribe, bell button, all.
There was thunder and lightning upon the whole earth, and all the foundations began to shake. The first angel blew his trumpet, and there came hail and fire mixed with blood. It was thrown upon the earth, and a third of the earth was burned. The second angel blew his trumpet, and a great flaming mountain fell to the sea, and a third of the oceans turned to blood. The third angel blew his trumpet, and a great star fell from heaven. It fell on the rivers and on the springs of fresh water. The name of this star is called Wormwood. Therefore, a third of the fresh water became bitter, and many perished from it. When the fourth angel blew his trumpet, a third of the sun was struck, also a third of the moon, and a third of the stars, so that a third of their light may be darkened, and a third of the day may be kept from shining. When the fifth angel blew his trumpet, I saw a star fall to the earth, and he was given the key to the bottomless pit. He opened the abyss, and from it came smoke like that of a great furnace. The sky was darkened, and locusts came out from the smoke. They were told not to harm the earth, but only those who did not have the seal of God. In those days, the people will seek death, and they will not find it. They will long to die, but death will flee from them. When the sixth angel blew his trumpet, I heard a voice that said, "Release the 4 angels who are bound at the great river Euphrates." These 4 angels, who had been reserved for this very hour, were released to kill a third of mankind. The rest of mankind still did not give up their idols, nor did they repent of their murders and sorceries. Then I saw another angel descending from heaven. He was wrapped in a cloud with a rainbow over his head. His face was like the sun, and his legs were like pillars of fire. He called out like a roaring lion, and the 7 thunders began to sound. I went to write, but a voice from heaven said to me, "Seal up what the 7 thunders have said, and do not write it down. Now go, take the scroll from the hand of the angel who stands before you." When I came to the angel, he said, "Take it and eat it. It will make your stomach bitter, but in your mouth it will be sweet as honey." So I took the scroll from the hand of the angel, and I ate it. Then they said to me, "Come, you must prophesy further concerning many peoples and nations and kings."
And a resounding baka flies through the air across the world. Why are you screaming like a wild bird?
Rattle their cage. They have a lot of people screaming randomly. Why don't you shout? It'll be their call out. They have a lot of people screaming randomly.
Go ahead and...
Why don't you shout?
Why are you screaming like a wild bird?
Fun fact, I believe it was another fun fact. Fun fact. Another fun fact.
Brings me back to my Screamo days.
Give me a break.
Value for value. We take no money from corporations, commies, or cartels.
Canary